Okay, so let me tell you. It was 2010 and I decided to be celibate. And when I say be celibate, I made a commitment to God that went a little something like, the next guy that I'm with intimately is going to be my husband, because I'm sick of these trifling guys, these random dudes that I'm with, and I'm tired of the lifestyle, and I'm tired of waking up on Sunday morning going to church, hallelujah, but then on Saturday night I'm crawling out of some Negro's bed. And so because I was like in this place with God where I was completely emotionally vulnerable with him, I made a decision in 2010 to say the next person that it is, it's going to be my husband. And a good book that helped me build my faith to wait and to know that God wanted me to wait on someone that he designed for me in marriage was the book Captivating. And so here's Captivating right here. But what I think is sometimes the missing ingredient to our faith and to prayers that get answered by God really is emotional honesty. And here I was at year 8 of my celibacy journey, and choosing to ignore phone calls, text messages, hitting the block button because it was not difficult for me to attract a guy, but it was difficult for me to maintain, keep, and realize that I was enough. And if you haven't heard my story in some of my previous videos, healing from complex trauma, I had to really regain my sanity. And part of that was me recognizing that a lot of the times I was only with these guys just to fill the emotional voids that I wanted to fill. I wanted to feel loved. I wanted to feel seen. I wanted to feel known. And so sex was a way to get those needs met, however temporary. And one of the things that I decided to do when God truly called me was give up that part of my life. And I did not know how long it was going to take. So I will tell you, at about year 8, I got before the Lord in prayer, and I was journaling, and I was like, look, God, I'm ready to have sex now. Please start doing whatever it is you need to do to arrange for the man of God to come. Because at this point, I'm ready, and I'm ready to experience a sex life with someone who is my husband. And so right around the time where I started to be honest with God in my prayers about my needs, about my wants, and about my emotions, was when God started to move. Like, I will literally go back and show you journal entries where I wrote down specifically what I knew I wanted in a husband and what I knew I wanted in a life partner. And it was no longer that generic stuff like, oh, I need a man of God. Or because it's a lot of Christian men calling themselves men of God. I would write down to God how I wanted to meet my God. Because part of my issue is that I would be at gas stations getting hollered at by dudes, or, on random hookups from homies or friends who see you and it's like, hey, you should talk to my homeboy such and such. So I was very specific about how I wanted to meet the man of God, because at the end of the day, I wanted a story. I wanted a fairy tale story. And I had cousins in my life who had recently gotten saved, and I had a chance in 2010 to be in their wedding. And one of the things that they showed me is that God really can orchestrate and weave together a beautiful love story. It's not impossible, and it's not just this facade that you put out there. Now, a word of caution and a word of warning. I know that a lot of women in the Christian influencer space have been hurt by what's called purity culture, which is this mindset that says the more pure I am with my sexuality, the better God can give me a great story. And it's like, if I earn God's approval through being celibate, then he will qualify me for a great husband. I want to kind of speak to that. And here's what I want you to know. I think the intent of the mindset that a woman who lives by faith and who prays prayers of faith for her husband, for her covering, for her marriage, is there a reward for diligently seeking God, as Hebrews 11:6 tells us? Yes, there is a reward. However, God God is not, how do I say it like this? Rewarding women with healthy husbands because they chose to be celibate. It's because they chose to trust. And I think that's what got lost in purity culture. And not every Christian woman who gets the fairy tale guy who asks her out in the right way, who has the, the proposal and the ring and the good girlfriends and all the God moments, no woman gets the perfect marriage. Every single marriage takes work. Relationships take work. And it was honestly in the season where I started to want to date and wanted to really put myself out there to get married. That was the season where I saw my most broken behavior. It was the season where a mirror finally got shown to my face, and I was like, "Oh, girl, you got some stuff up underneath that trunk that you need to heal, because you were punishing this man for emotions and things that he did not put there." So purity culture tells you that a great husband and a great Christian marriage is a reward for celibacy. That's not true. So we've debunked that myth. However, one of the things that I chose to do with my body is honor my body with who I decided to have sex with. And that was one of the greatest decisions of my life. And I do believe that on the other end and on the other side of that, because I chose to honor what God had given me, myself, and I chose to love me, I waited for the person that the Lord had sent me instead of the people and the type of God that I was always choosing. So I want you to hold on to the fact and to this point. And here's the point of this video. God needs your emotional honesty in prayer. And I believe that if you are brave enough to tell the Lord, like, hey, I want a great husband, and you give him permission to help you begin to write that story, I believe that you will begin to see his hand move in ways you have never known before. So my reality was that in 2017-ish, 2016, 17-ish, when I really began to get honest with God about getting married, I had the dream job. I was a youth pastor at the time. I was doing career stuff. I was working. But after that season was over, it was just like, something really is missing in my life. And I know that that is divine partnership. And I began to pray and I began to tell God how I wanted to meet my husband. Literally, I kid you not, I met my husband in the exact way that I wrote down and told God I wanted to meet him, which was in a group of friends. I wanted to be in the room with him and not know this man was my future husband, because I wanted to take all of the immediate feelings of liking someone, crushing on someone out of the picture, because I was the girl who crushed on the wrong guy and got my feelings crushed. Okay. So I was the person who was looking at a guy through the eyes of lust, looking at a guy through the eyes of what can he do for me, instead of being in an environment where I could be a mutual friend with someone and build that type of trust with a person from a distance, where nothing about them is physically attractive to me. Nothing about them is appealing to my emotions. And so God gave me that. He honored what I asked him for. And if he can do it for me, the little broken girl from Columbus, Georgia, I know he can do it for you. But you have to give God your emotional honesty. So I began to write down, after I feel like the season of 10 years showed me, well, at the time, 8 years. So in 2017, 2018, it was about 8 years into my journey being celibate, I began to write down what I needed in a husband, because I had finally had a chance to get to know me. And I knew that I needed someone to help me with sickle cell disease that was not afraid of the fact that I would get sick consistently. And sometimes chronically, that I was chronically ill. I needed someone who understood that my family story was very broken, that I was born into a situation with infidelity. And so because of that, I have 2 sets of parents. So 4 of them all together. I needed someone who understood my love for God, my faith, and my tenacity to go after things that God had told me to do, and that I was not going to let up, that my faith would be a major part of my career and my finances, and that entrepreneurship would be too. And so dating for me was not something that I really had to do, because little did I know, since college, that person had been sitting in rooms with me. But the reality is that when we stumbled upon each other in college, that was not the right time. And God made sure we didn't know each other, that we barely knew each other. And the knowing of each other that we did have, we didn't like each other. So I bring my husband on some videos called Ask the Lots, because we open up a lot about our story. But the number one thing that I did not see at that time was that my husband, who at the time was just a friend of mine, he was someone who also, I needed him to deeply love the Lord. Because I remember the season where I asked the Lord for a man of God, and this random church drummer tried to talk to me, and child, we ain't gonna talk about that. So make sure that you are specific in your prayers. And I do believe in my heart and soul, as your sister in Christ, to encourage you, that you will have what you say. but you have to be petitioning God for the right things. And I believe that he's listening to make sure that your faith aligns with what you are praying. And sometimes when we are aiming too low, it's because we're not specific enough. And last but not least, here's what I want to leave you with this. A lot of times, the reason why we don't pray specific prayers and the reason why we don't believe God needs our emotional honesty is because we don't realize that the whole purpose for Jesus being sent is so that he could empathize with everything that we're going through. And that empathy is what opens the door for him to recognize and realize, wow, like this young lady is brave enough and my child is brave enough to come to me and say, I'm ready to have sex. Because that is a core need. That is something that I wired her body to want. And I believe a lot of times religion thrives on this word, and it's called shame. Shame is when we have the story of who God is twisted in our minds, and we believe and we think that the thing that we're asking for is not good enough. It's not Christian enough. It's not morally straight enough. I am so honest with God in my prayers, and I believe that he wants you to be the same. Like literally, if you study the Psalms, study what David said to God. In the presence of God, he was talking about, Lord, bash all my enemies in the face. God, I want to see their children be killed in their sleep. Like, this is stuff that's written in scripture from the depths of David's heart. There is nothing that you are going through that God is ashamed of. And so I believe that your lack of emotional honesty with God and with yourself is coming from the fact that you don't know enough about him. So his word is the best way to get to know that God can handle your honesty. It is the best way for you to see just how raw and real you can be with the Lord, that he really is your best friend. So if you are having trouble with shame and you want to silence the voice of shame, because maybe there are areas in your life like me where you have been taken advantage of sexually, where you feel as if past abuse and trauma with parents kind of puts this shadow and this cloud of shame around some of your needs and wants. I want to invite you to an opportunity to do two things. Number one, I have a book called Silence and Shame. I'm going to flip my seat around and grab it. So give me just a second. So Silencing Shame is right here. This is my book, and it is created for you to stop the voices in your head that scream you are not enough. In that season where I was asking God for things like, my spouse, my husband, where I was asking him for good friends, and I had the worst emotional breakdown surrounding shame and trauma by having a crush on the wrong guy. That season really broke me and showed me my heart and showed me that at the root of the way that I felt ashamed of myself, because I had been molested as a kid, because I had complex trauma from PTSD by being abused by a parent. I really did live my life feeling unworthy. And I thought that it was my looks and my flirtation and all those things that qualified me to be good enough for men. I did not see my self-worth beyond what I look like. And so I want you to know that there is healing available, and God has given me a remedy to help you heal. And so this book is right here. It's in the description. It's also across the screen. Go ahead and order this, and it's also on Amazon. And I want you to get it. I want you to read it. Now, I told you that there were two things. And so the second thing is this. I had to get into a season of my life where the bravery to be honest with God in prayer came from the fact that I was being properly discipled and mentored and pastored by some great leaders. And if you are a woman who feels as if I really do probably in this season of my life need a good mentor or a good leader, I want you to consider me. And I want you to consider me to help you do two things: heal overthinking and embrace your calling. I want to help you unlock your purpose. And so if you want to know more about my mentorship program, here is the link below. It's shescalledtolead.com/academy. This is your opportunity to finally be proud of you, your consistency, and your progress, because I want to help you do two things. Number one, I want to help you heal first. And number 2, I want to help you unlock your purpose. And so I am so elated that you have stuck with me this far on this video. If you have any questions or concerns, comments, or you just want to like text me, ask me how I'm doing, here's my phone number. I have no problem giving you my number to my text community, and I cannot wait to talk to you. And you have a blessed day. And remember, be emotionally honest with God, because he empathizes with everything that you are going through. Bye-bye.